If you're 40 years old right now and you've got nothing in the bank, no investments, maybe some debt hanging over your head, I need you to listen to me for the next 30 minutes like your life depends on it, because in a lot of ways it does. I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you. You don't have the same runway a 25-year-old has. Time. The one thing that actually makes people rich without them even trying that hard is not on your side anymore. That's the bad news, and I want to get it out of the way right up front because I'm not here to blow smoke at you. Here's the good news though. It's not over. Not even close. I've personally seen people build real wealth starting later than you with less money than you have sitting in your account right now. But here's the catch, and this is the part nobody wants to hear. It's not going to happen by accident. It's not going to happen because you wish for it. Pray on it, or watch enough videos like this one and feel motivated for 20 minutes. It's going to happen because you make 3 specific moves starting today, right now, not next Monday, not after the holidays, today, and you make them without excuses. If you skip any one of these 3 moves, you will still be broke at 50. And then you'll be having this exact same conversation with yourself at 60, except by then, it really will be too late to fix it. So don't skip this video. Don't half watch it while you're scrolling your phone. This is the one that actually matters. Before I get into the 3 moves, I need you to do one thing for me, and it costs you absolutely nothing. Hit subscribe right now. I'm not asking for a favor here. I'm telling you straight up that this video alone could be worth thousands of dollars to you, maybe tens of thousands over the next few years if you actually go apply it. People pay real money, hundreds of dollars an hour, for this kind of advice from a financial advisor. I'm giving it to you for free, but the price of free is that you subscribe. So this channel keeps putting out videos that keep you accountable and on track. So go hit that button now before you get distracted and forget, and then come right back to me. All right, let's get into the first move. And this is the one everybody wants to skip because it's the least exciting. The first thing you do before anything else, before you open a single investment account, is you get brutally honest about where you actually stand financially. Most people avoid this step like the plague because it's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to open up their bank statements, their credit card bills, their student loan balance, and see the real numbers staring back at them. But you cannot fix a problem. You refuse to look directly in the eye. So grab a notebook, open up a Google Sheet. I genuinely do not care what tool you use. And I want you to write down 4 numbers. Number 1, how much money is actually coming in every single month from every source? Your job, side income, any freelance work, all of it. Number 2, how much money is going out? And I mean every dollar, not just the big stuff. Your rent or your mortgage, your car payment, your insurance, your subscriptions, your daily coffee, your takeout orders, your Amazon impulse buys, all of it gets written down. Number 3, what you owe every single debt you're carrying, every credit card balance, every loan, and next to each one, write down the interest rate, because that number is about to become very important. And number 4, what you actually own that has real value. Your savings, your retirement accounts, any investments, any equity you've built up. And don't just glance at these numbers once and close the notebook. Sit with them for a minute, because most people have never once in their entire adult life seen all 4 of these numbers side by side on the same page. They know roughly what they make. They kind of know what they spend. If you ask them to guess, but nobody ever puts it all together in one place. And that's exactly why so many people in their 40s feel like they're working hard, doing everything right, and still somehow going nowhere. You cannot navigate to a destination if you don't even know your current location. This is your current location. Write it down. Once you've got those 4 numbers laid out in front of you, you are going to see one of 2 things. Either you're bleeding money every single month without realizing it, or you've got more breathing room than you thought you did. Both of those are useful to know. Both of them tell you exactly where you need to focus your energy. First, I don't care if you're $40,000 in debt with 0 savings, or if you got a decent cushion sitting in a checking account that's just never been invested. Everybody's starting line looks different, but everybody uses the exact same map to get from where they are to where they actually want to be. And that map starts with knowing the ugly truth about your numbers. This is the step most people skip because it feels like homework. And honestly, that's exactly why the small percentage of people who actually sit down and do it end up so far ahead of everybody else. Getting wealthy isn't about being smarter than the next guy. Half the time, it's just about being willing to do the boring, unglamorous work that everyone else avoids. Now that you know where you actually stand, here's move number 2. And this is where you stop the financial bleeding immediately. So if you don't have at least $2,000 sitting in a savings account right now, that becomes your one and only financial job for the next few weeks. Not investing, not aggressively paying down debt yet, just getting $2,000 saved as fast as humanly possible. Because without that buffer, one flat tire or one broken water heater turns into new credit card debt. And credit card debt is charging you somewhere between 15 and 25% interest, while your investments are only earning you 7 to 10% in a good year, historically speaking. Do that math for a second. You cannot out-invest a 25% interest rate, no matter how good your stock picks are. So for these next few weeks, cut everything that isn't essential. The extra streaming subscriptions, the takeout, the little daily luxuries, all of it pauses. This isn't forever. It's temporary. It's uncomfortable. And it is the single difference between actually building wealth and staying stuck exactly where you are right now. And I know $2,000 doesn't sound like some magic number that's going to change your life. It's not supposed to make you rich. That's not its job. Its job is to keep one bad month from turning into a bad year. Because here's what actually happens to people who skip this step. They jump straight into investing, feel good about themselves for a few months, and then the transmission goes out on the car. And now that investment gets liquidated at a loss just to cover an emergency. Or worse, it goes on a credit card and you're right back where you started. Except now you've also lost momentum and confidence. Get the cushion first. Everything else works better once that's in place. Once you've built that small cushion, you go straight after your high interest debt. Next. And I mean, you attack it like it personally wronged you, because in a sense, it did. Every single dollar you're paying toward credit card interest is a dollar that will never, ever work for you. It's money leaving your pocket and going straight into a bank's pocket instead. So line up every debt you have from the highest interest rate down to the lowest, and throw every extra dollar you can scrape together at that top one until it's completely gone. Then roll down to the next one. I know this isn't glamorous advice. Nobody's making a movie about paying down a Visa card, but it is, without question, the single fastest guaranteed return you will ever get on your money. Because paying off a 22% interest debt is functionally the same as earning a guaranteed 22% return. And nothing in the stock market can promise you that. I want to be really clear about the order here too, because people get this backwards all the time. They hear invest early and they try to do everything at once. Pay a little on the credit card, throw a little in the market, keep a little in savings. That spreads you too thin to make real progress on any single front. Attack one thing at a time, in order, with everything you've got. Emergency fund first, completely done. High interest debt next, completely done. Then, and only then, does serious investing begin. So once that debt is dead and buried, you keep that exact same aggressive energy, except now instead of feeding a credit card company, you start feeding your own future. That brings us to move number 3, which is the one that actually builds real lasting wealth. You have to build a system where you pay yourself before you pay anyone else. Most people do this completely backwards. They spend first, and if there happens to be anything left over at the end of the month, maybe they save or invest it. Here's the problem. There's never anything left over. That's not bad luck. That's just basic math and human nature working against you. So you flip the entire order the day your paycheck lands, before you spend a single dollar on rent, groceries, anything. A chunk of it moves automatically into investments, and a chunk moves into savings. Keep it simple to start. Something like this. 75% of what you earn is the absolute max you're allowed to spend. 15% is the minimum going toward investing, and 10% is the minimum going into savings. It genuinely does not matter if you make $35,000 a year or $350,000. This system scales right alongside you. And here's the trick that actually makes people stick with this. Open up 3 completely separate bank accounts, one purely for spending, one purely for savings, and one purely for investing. Set up automatic transfers so the money physically moves. The second your paycheck hits, before your brain even gets a chance to talk you out of it, you will spend noticeably less money that you can't actually see sitting in your checking account. That isn't some abstract theory. That's just how human psychology works, especially in a country that's basically wired us to spend every dollar we see. There's one more trap I want to warn you about at 40, specifically because it catches smart, hardworking people all the time. Lifestyle inflation. The moment you start earning more, whether from that raise or that side hustle finally paying off, there's this automatic pull to upgrade everything. Nicer car, bigger house, better vacations. And look, I want you to have those things eventually, genuinely. But if every extra dollar you earn immediately turns into a bigger bill, your investing percentage never actually goes up. It just stays frozen at whatever you started with while your lifestyle expands to swallow the rest. So when that raise comes through, before you upgrade anything, bump your investing percentage first. Let your wealth grow faster than your spending does, and the upgrades you eventually make will actually be paid for by your money working for you instead of by another loan. Now let's talk about where that investing money actually goes, because this is exactly where a lot of people either get it right or waste years spinning their wheels trying to find the next hot stock tip from a coworker. For roughly 95% of people watching this, you should be a passive investor, not an active one. That means instead of trying to guess which single company is going to be the next big winner, you put your money into broad index funds or ETFs that give you a slice of the entire market at once. One of these funds can put you in hundreds, sometimes thousands of companies simultaneously. So if one company completely tanks, it barely moves the needle on your portfolio. And if one company explodes in value, you still get a piece of that upside too. You're essentially betting on the overall economy growing over the long run instead of betting on your own ability to pick individual winners. And historically, that bet is paid off far more reliably for far more people than stock picking ever has. The real key with this kind of investing isn't timing the market. It's consistency. Plain and simple. You put money in every single week or every single paycheck, whether the market is up that week or down that week, and you don't touch it. You don't panic and pull your money out when it drops 10%, and you don't get greedy and pile in extra when it's spiking. You just keep feeding the machine on autopilot. Once you got that basic foundation running smoothly, you can look at layering in investments that pay you actual cash flow, things like dividend-paying stocks or rental real estate, where the asset pays you just for owning it. That kind of income won't make you rich overnight. Nobody's income does that. But stack that cash flow up for 10 or 15 years and reinvest whatever it pays you along the way. And you'll eventually watch that stream grow into something that covers real tangible expenses without you lifting a single finger for it. And look, some of you are going to want to get fancy and pick individual stocks. Try to find the next Amazon before everybody else does. Fine. If that's genuinely your hobby and you're willing to put in the real research, the financial statements, the competitive analysis, go ahead and do it with a small slice of your total money. But do not confuse that hobby with an actual strategy. The boring, consistent, fully automated investing is what actually builds serious long-term wealth. And the exciting stock picking stuff is entertainment at best. Real estate deserves its own quick mention here too, because at 40, some of you have equity sitting in a home already. And that's a real asset, even if it doesn't feel like one day to day. Owning physical rental property can absolutely build wealth, but it also demands more of your time, more of your money up front, and more of your risk tolerance than most people at this stage actually have available. If that path genuinely interests you, there are ways to get exposure to real estate without buying an entire property outright through funds built specifically for that purpose. But don't let the appeal of real estate distract you from getting the basics running first A fully automated index fund strategy that you actually stick with for 15 years will outperform a real estate deal you're not ready for and can't properly manage. Here's the part most people really don't want to hear. But at 40 years old, you cannot afford to ignore it any longer. You almost certainly need to earn more money, too. Not just cut your expenses and invest smarter with what you already have. Cutting your spending has a hard floor. You can only trim so much before you're just living small, miserable, and resentful about it. But there is no ceiling whatsoever on what you're capable of earning. None. So while you're busy fixing the spending side of the equation, you also have to be constantly asking yourself, how do I bring in more money? Maybe that means finally negotiating a raise because you've genuinely made yourself the single most valuable person in that building. Maybe it means starting a side hustle on your evenings and weekends. Maybe it's finally launching that business idea you've been quietly sitting on for the last 10 years because you were scared of what people would say if it flopped. I can promise you this. The biggest regret I hear from people in their 50s and 60s isn't that they took a swing and it didn't work out. It's that they never even took the swing in the first place, and none of this works, not a single piece of it, without the right mindset backing it up. If you're walking around resenting people who have money, you will never actually become one of them. Because deep down, some part of you believes that wealth makes a person bad. It doesn't. Money is just a tool. It simply amplifies whoever you already are underneath it. Give a generous person more money, and they do more good with it. That's really the whole story. So drop the excuses about your boss, the government, your bad luck, and start asking yourself a much better question instead. From how did the people who actually made it get there, and what specifically can I learn and steal from that? I also need to talk to you about commitment and discipline for a second, because at 40, this is where most people quietly give up without even realizing they've done it. They start strong for a month, maybe two, cutting expenses, throwing money at debt, feeling motivated. Then month 3 hits. Nothing dramatic has happened yet. The numbers haven't moved as fast as they hoped, and the motivation fades. This is exactly the point where the people who actually succeed separate themselves from everybody else because they keep putting in the work, even when it's boring, even when there's no visible payoff yet. Building wealth isn't a sprint with a finish line. You can see it's closer to showing up to the gym for months before you notice any real difference in the mirror. The results lag behind the effort, sometimes by years. And that gap is exactly where most people quit. Don't be like most people. Keep making the transfer, keep cutting the excess, keep showing up, especially on the weeks it feels pointless. You also have to fully accept that you're going to lose money at some point along the way. Every single investor on the planet does, without exception. That's not a reason to avoid playing the game altogether. That's simply the cost of admission for playing it at all. The real risk was never losing some money on one bad investment. The real risk is doing absolutely nothing and standing in the exact same spot 10 years from now, except 10 years older with 10 fewer years of runway left to fix it. So here's your challenge, and I genuinely want you to go do this. Not just nod along, feel good for 5 minutes and close the video. Tonight before you go to bed, sit down and write out those 4 numbers. What you make, what you spend, what you owe, and what you actually own. Tomorrow morning, open up a separate account specifically for your investing money if you don't already have one sitting there. This week, before Friday, set up an automatic transfer, even if it's small, even if it's only $50 a paycheck to start. That is genuinely how this whole thing begins. Not with some massive, dramatic, overnight transformation, but with one small, boring, unglamorous decision that you actually follow all the way through on. Being 40 and broke isn't a life sentence handed down to you. It's just your starting line, and exactly where you finish this race is still 100% up to you. 10 years from now, you're either going to be 50 years old and financially free, or you're going to be 50 years old watching another one of these videos, wishing you'd started today instead of putting it off one more time. Make the decision right now, this second, for which one of those two people you're actually going to be. Subscribe. If you haven't already, send this to somebody in their 40s who genuinely needs to hear it today, and I will see you in the next one.